Hello, everybody. Welcome to week one of American National Government. I hope everybody had a good break. Hope your classes are off to a good start. My name is Eric Hodges. I'm the instructor for the course. But before we actually get into discussing the course, I want you guys to actually pause this video. And I posted a link in the announcement as well. It's a link to a video clip. I want you guys to pause this video, watch that video clip, and then come back where you are. Okay, so hopefully you guys enjoyed that video clip. It's actually the opening scene from, it was an HBO show called The Newsroom, and it's sort of a political media drama, and every time I see that speech that he delivers in the end, it sort of gives me chills and gets me excited to think about American government and to talk about American government and, what American government could be versus what American government actually is, and how do we get from here to there. Okay, as I said, my name's Eric Hodges. This is my second year teaching at USF Sarasota. I finished my PhD in 2014 from Virginia Tech. My PhD was in Government and International Affairs. Before that, I spent 4 years working in Washington, D.C., so I have some firsthand experience with the way some of this stuff works, and I was also in the military, so I've been sort of involved in government for most of my adult life anyway. And now I'm actually teaching it. Okay, so because this is an online class, and I'll talk about this a little bit later, but one of the things that I think is really important in an online class is trying to maintain some sort of sense of classroom community, right? So rather than just being out there as isolated individuals wherever we are, because we're spread all over, at least we have some sense of what the other person looks like, where they're from, the major things about them. So the first exercise that I have you guys do for this class is it's a video introduction, just like what I'm doing right now. And I'll talk about it a little bit more later. But here are the things that I want, and I will actually post this in the discussion. I want you to post your intros in the discussions on our Canvas site. But here are the things I want you to talk about, and I'll write these down as well. So I want you to obviously mention your name, your major, what campus you're on, because as an online class we have people from all different campuses. What you hope to get out of this class, and finally, based on your experience, what makes a good online class, right? Because online classes are sort of a different breed, and they can be really good or they can be really bad, right? So I want to make sure that we make this the best online class that we can. Okay, so I'll start. So my name is Eric Hodges, as I already said. I don't have a major, but my field is Government and International Affairs with a focus on American government primarily. I'm at the Sarasota campus. I teach this class in person there and some other political science classes as well. What do I hope to get out of the class? It's interesting. I mean, every time I've taught this class many times, and I've been studying the subject for many, many years, and every time I teach the class, I learn something new. Right, lots of new things actually, based on you guys' experiences and your interpretations of the readings and things like that. So, I just hope to learn from you guys, and I know that I definitely can. I definitely have a lot to learn, specifically, and for this class, and we'll talk about this a little bit when I get into the actual subject a bit. But this class is going to be a little bit different than the traditional American government class because we're going to be focusing primarily on two things. We're going to be focusing on the presidency and the Constitution. Right? We're going to be talking about the other major components as well, but those are going to be our two primary focuses for this. So I'm looking forward to hearing what you guys think about the presidential election that's going on now and how you think that's going to shake out and why you think that, and I think that'll be really good for me. What makes a good online class? I think there are a couple things. First, I think you have to have that sense of community where people know each other, so you just don't feel like it's sort of you're out there in the stratosphere by yourself. I also think there has to be some level of structure. One of the great things about online classes is that you can actually get away with a decent amount of flexibility, right? You can do your homework in your pajamas. You can do your homework in the middle of the night if you want to, et cetera, et cetera. But if there's no structure imposed at all, sometimes things just sort of get out of hand, right? So that's the reason that I try to, even though it's an online class, I try to impose some sort of time schedule, because if we don't have a time schedule, and then assignments go by the wayside and people get behind and it just gets really messy. So I think those are the two things, right? So having that classroom community and having some degree of structure in the class. So those are my two answers. Okay, and that's essentially what I want you guys to do for your first assignment. So, all right, so our subject, right? Obviously our subject is American national government, right? So we're looking at the institutions, the policies, the traditions, the practices, the histories, the theories that relate to American national government, right? So we're not just talking about the federal government. We're, we'll talk about this in class. We live in a federalist system of government, right, where we have the national government and we have state governments and we have local governments, right? So how does the national government, which is the focus of the class, interface with the state governments and the local governments, and how does the whole federalist process actually work out? But American national government is a massive subject, right? I mean, it's huge, it's vast. So I think what you have to do, based on my experiences, is that you have to focus on a couple of different areas within the government to really put your focus on. Obviously, right now, we're in the middle of a sort of a hot and heated presidential election, right? And we're going very rapidly into primary season, where the parties are going to actually nominate their delegates. So one of the subjects, because I thought it would be interesting to you guys, and it's interesting to me as well, that we're going to focus on is the presidency, right? What are the legitimate powers of the presidency? Have those powers changed over time? How have they changed? How does the president get elected? What is the electoral college? Is the president popularly elected? Is there a national election for the president? All these things, some of them have trick questions or have tricky answers, right? So we're going to be focusing on the presidency for the first half of the class. And then the second half of the class, we're going to be focusing on the Constitution, right? Of course, the Constitution is the source, right? So we're going back to the source of American national government and how things got started. We hear people talking about the Constitution all the time, right? But if I ask them what Article 3 of the Constitution actually has to deal with, you would probably get a blank stare, right? Or Article 7. So I want to make sure that when we're having these debates about the Constitution and you're talking to somebody about the Constitution and what it actually means, that you actually have a leg to stand on, right? Because if you don't understand the Constitution, if you don't understand the basics of the Constitution, then you don't understand the way our government, works. It's the foundation. So those are the two primary subjects that we're going to be looking at. There, obviously we'll talk about Congress some in there, and we'll talk about the Supreme Court, and we'll talk about the federal bureaucracy, and all those sorts of things, and the regulatory process. And we may even talk a little bit about how a bill becomes a law, everybody's favorite subject. But primarily we're going to be focusing on the presidency and the Constitution. Okay, so what is the format of the class, right? Obviously, we know it's an online class, and I was talking earlier about, how I try to impose some sort of structure, in an online class. Here's how I do it, right? So each week there is a topic, right? So for instance, the topic for this week is the introduction, right? So if you whip out your handy-dandy syllabus, which I have posted on our Canvas site, and that's where all of our stuff is going to be going on, is on Canvas, right? If you go into the announcements, you can find the syllabus. So it may even be helpful as I'm going through this video for you to actually, either have a hard copy of the syllabus or have it up on your computer. So each week I'll have a topic, and there are going to be readings associated with that topic, right? And all of your readings are going to be placed on Canvas. If you go into Canvas and you go under Files, under Files, there will be another folder called Course Readings. You click on that folder, you open that up, you'll see week 2, week 3, week 4, etc. And that's where the reading for that week will be posted. And the way you'll know what you're supposed to read for that week is if you go to the end of the syllabus, there's a schedule. And it has week 1, introduction, course reading, syllabus, right? Week 2, whatever our topic is for next week, and then you'll see it has a reading, and that reading will be posted on Canvas in the course readings folder, right? So that's the first thing to know. Each week has a topic, each week has an assigned reading, and you guys need to read that. Okay, so on Tuesday of that particular week, just like today, I will post a video, right? And I'm going to post them in the announcements, video 1, video 2, video 3. In that video, I will talk about, not only, what sort of we're going to be covering over this coming week, week 1, but I'm also going to talk about what happened in the discussion last week, because a lot of the learning in this class actually happens on the message boards and the discussion boards. So I'll talk about, okay, well, when you were talking about the president's legitimate authority, you mentioned that, the president has the authority to pardon, but you didn't mention that the president has the authority to appoint, appoint Supreme Court justices or to appoint certain ministers, right? So I'll comment on last week's discussion, and I will also talk a little bit about the material for this particular week. So that's generally, and I'll make announcements, right? So like for instance, this week we have a quiz that's going to be due on Saturday. So at the beginning of the video and usually at the end, I'll say, don't forget we have a quiz coming up, right? But of course, you can find that on the syllabus. And that's another thing that I want to really emphasize. A lot of times on online classes, rather than looking at the syllabus, oftentimes students will just follow, the Canvas calendar that tells you have a quiz coming up on such and such date. Don't do that, right? I mean, the definitive guide for when things are due in this class is the syllabus. And if the syllabus says that the quiz 1 is due by midnight on Saturday, then that's when it's due, regardless of whether there's something that's been posted on Canvas that says quiz 1 is due at 11:59. So please read the syllabus, reference it each week, and see what you actually have due. And if you watch the videos, which I once again highly encourage you to do, I will be discussing these things over and over again. You have a quiz due this week. So as long as you're reading the syllabus and you're watching the videos, you should be good to go. You should know what's going on, what you need to do, all of those things, right? So Tuesday, usually it'll be Tuesday afternoon, late afternoon probably. I'll post the video, watch the video. Then on Wednesday, I will post a discussion question or a discussion prompt on our Canvas site. And the way that it's going to work is that I'm going to break you guys down into different groups, right? Different discussion groups of like 5 people, let's say, in each group. So I will post the discussion question, and then once I have assigned, and I will do this next week, I will post the group assignments, find which group you're in, go to that particular group discussion board, and participate in the discussion there. And here's how I want it to work for you guys to get sort of perfect credit. So I'm going to post a discussion question on Wednesday. All right, let's say I post a discussion question on Wednesday at noon. To get perfect credit, I want you guys to respond to my question within 24 hours. So if I post my question on Wednesday at noon, that means you need to have it in by Thursday at noon to get full credit. But that's not the end of the story, right? Because in addition to just responding to my comment, I also want you guys to respond to a classmate. I want you to be reading the responses of the people in your group, and I want you to respond to them. I know people post at different times and things like that, and schedules get conflicted. So in order to do that, I'm letting you guys have until Sunday at midnight, to respond to a classmate. So here's how it works. I post something on Wednesday at noon. You have 24 hours, or whenever I post it. It could be noon, could be 1 p.m., could be 2 p.m. You have 24 hours to respond to that. And then you have until midnight on Sunday to read and respond to one of your classmates. If you do that, you'll get a perfect participation score for that week, which is a score of 10. Right? And there are obviously gradations of that. What kind of responses am I looking for? People often ask me this. You don't have to write a book, right? But I want you to write a couple of paragraphs at least that demonstrates that you have read the material and that you're at least giving it a decent shot to try to answer the question. Right? And if you do that, you'll be fine. Right? I don't expect you guys to write a thesis on the particular question, but I do want you to demonstrate, A, that you've read it, and B, that you've thought about it. Right? And if you do those things, you should be in good shape. Occasionally we'll have quizzes or a midterm, right? And all the stuff's taken online, of course. And if that is the case, then those things are usually due by Saturday at midnight. I will typically open them up. On Friday morning, let's say 7 a.m., and they will be due at midnight. Quizzes are open book. The midterm is closed book. Right. So with quizzes, the quizzes will be based on our readings, discussions, things like that. You guys can reference that to answer the quizzes. But for the midterm, it will be closed book. Okay. Let's see. Grading. So rather than doing percentages, I do points. There are 500 total points in the class, and you can find on the syllabus the grading scale to see whether you get an A plus, an A. So it's a plus or minus system, A plus, A minus, etc. And you can see what points you need for that. Don't go by the percentages that are listed on Canvas, because sometimes they're not including everything, or they're including something extra like participation or something like that I don't have in the grade, or attendance rather. So make sure that if you want to get an accurate read of what your grade actually is, make sure you're following along with the points. We have 4 different types of grades, right? So there's a participation grade, which makes up 30%, right? So that's huge. So you could ace all the quizzes, you could ace the midterm, you could do a bang-up job on your final paper, but if you don't participate in the weekly discussions, you're still getting a 70, right? Which is not very good, right? So, all I ask that you do is that you try, right? You read the material, you give it a shot, and you do that, and you got 30% right there, right? So, and that's where the learning happens, right? That's why I give it so much emphasis, is because it's so important. So that's 30%. So the way that works is each week I give you, so there are 15 weeks, not including spring break. Each week I will give you a grade from 0 to 10. Right? And 10, if you get a 10, would be just what I was saying earlier. You respond to my question within 24 hours, and you respond to a classmate by Sunday, right? And you do it in a thoughtful way. And you haven't, Googled your terms and found somebody else's essay on SparkNotes and copied it, and that's your response, right? That doesn't cut it. But if you do all those things, you get a 10, right? If you don't read, you don't participate, you get a 0, right? And there are gradations in there, right? If you respond late, right, I'm going to take some points off. If you respond, but you respond in sort of a half-hearted way, I'm going to take some points off. So essentially that's the way that participation works. There are 4 quizzes, as I said. The first quiz for this week is on the syllabus, right? So making sure that you guys are actually reading the syllabus. So all the questions on the quiz will be taken directly from the syllabus. And you can reference the syllabus as you're taking the quiz. And essentially the next quiz will cover everything from that quiz date all the way back to the last quiz. So, on quiz 2, it'll cover everything from that week all the way back to the syllabus, right? And the same thing for quiz 3 and quiz 4. We'll have a midterm exam. It'll be a combination. This is true for the quizzes too. True, false, multiple choice primarily. But with the midterm, there will be short essay questions as well. The main difference is that the midterm is closed book. So please don't cheat, right? Don't plagiarize. I know it's easy to do in an online class, right? I mean, you got all the knowledge in the world right at your fingertips, right? So, but if you do, I will find out, and if I find out, then you're going to be in trouble, right? Meaning you probably get a 0 on the midterm, and it's possible I could, I don't want to do it, but I may report it if I have to. So please don't cheat, right? That's my plea, right? Don't do it. It's easy, but it's not gonna help you in the long run, because I'm gonna find out. I've read hundreds of these discussions, maybe thousands, and I read your discussions every week, right? So if I'm reading your discussion and I know the way that you're talking, and then I see something that looks like it was written by Aristotle, I'm gonna know, right? Because I've read Aristotle and I've read you, so I know the difference. So don't do it. Okay, and that's the major policy too, right? Going through the system policies and stuff. Just don't plagiarize. If anybody has a legitimate reason that they can't, if something happens in your life, because life happens sometimes, and you need some sort of accommodation or something like that, send me an email. If it's legit, I'll work with you and we'll figure something out. Let me look real quick. If you want to meet with me in person, send me an email. You can see that my email is listed at the top of the syllabus. That's the best way to contact me. I would prefer that if you just send me an email directly to my email address than to through Canvas. And the email address is listed right there. Yeah, but if you want to meet, send me an email, right? And we'll set something up. I'm just going to scroll through the syllabus real quick here, make sure I didn't miss anything. Oh yeah, I did. Final paper, right? So that's the final grade, is the final paper, right? That's the final assignment that you have. And it's a 6 to 8 page, double-spaced, sort of standard paper. About middle way through the semester, I will post a list of paper topics, right? And you can choose from those paper topics to write on, or you can write about, if we read a particular topic or there's something that you're really interested in and you want to write a paper on it, send me an email, and we'll see if we can work out, a way that you can write your paper about that topic. I'm happy to do that. But I think I have on here by April 1st. It's not an April Fool's joke. If you send me the topic by April 1st, we'll work something out. Okay. I think that's it. Also, I have under the discussions tab, which is where all the discussions each week will happen, I have a course questions discussion started. If you guys have questions about the course, post them there first. Everybody else, if you have a question that comes up, I suggest that you get sort of like a frequently asked questions page on the website, right? Go there first and see if somebody else has already asked the question, and I'll try to answer that. And if that doesn't work, then send me an email and remind me that you have posted a question in the course questions folder, and I will answer that. Or of course, if you have something personal that you don't want to share with everybody else, send me an email, and I'm happy to discuss that. Okay, so 2 announcements, 2 reminders. Announcement 1 is that quiz 1 is due this week by midnight on Saturday. I will post it on Friday morning, and you'll have until midnight. You can refer to your syllabus to answer the questions, so should be an easy grade, right? You should just go right off the syllabus and answer the questions. Second thing, State of the Union address tonight, right? So we're coming in at a good time. President Obama's giving his final State of the Union address tonight. So if you get a chance, it's on at 9 o'clock. I would suggest that you check it out. Should be interesting.